Right.
This is why I was looking for you. Why didn't you?
Right.
They weren't.
All right. Yeah.
Right. Did you use? Right.
I've got so many new people.
You're on Ben's with us.
Not until August, but we'll probably keep
Oh,
that.
is it August?
Please note this meeting today will be a live broadcast meeting, will be available on the Combined Authority YouTube channel, so please ensure your microphones are dotted around the room there. So this is the annual meeting as well, so we'll split it into two parts. So item 1 will be Mayor's introduction, which is me. Hello. So again, welcome to the meeting today. This is the third one that I've chaired as Mayor of one of these meetings. All officers around the table know that I'm probably the most impatient person on the planet. So moments like today where we actually get to reflect on some of the work that we've achieved over the last couple of years should be taken. We'll hear reports today throughout the day from the funding that we've released to support communities, improve access to education, employment and trade, fixing our roads, supporting our businesses, and most importantly to me, the reason why I stood to be Mayor, investing in our communities. We've made fantastic progress over the last couple of years. It's very easy to compare ourselves to mayors and organisations that have been doing this for almost a decade, but in comparison to those, we are moving a lot faster, a lot further, and with greater clarity and purpose of what we're trying to do and what we have done over the last couple of years. That's in large down to the teamwork around this table, particularly to support me and members and the officers around this table and in the Combined Authority, both local authorities. They do a huge amount of legwork and bring proposals and ideas to the meetings, and they work tirelessly to gain and maintain our reputation across the county and the country for working in a really collaborative way to the betterment of our businesses. Before we go any further today, I'm just making a number of appointments for the forthcoming year. Pleased to appoint Councillor Claire Douglas as my statutory Deputy Mayor. Claire has been a member of the Combined Authority since the very beginning and is an incredible, capable pair of hands. And on the rare occasions that I'll need someone to step in for me, I have absolutely no doubt that Claire will be in the best position to do that. So thank you, Claire. And we're also making a portfolio holder change today as well. I'll be appointing Councillor Jenny Kent of City of York Council to portfolio holder for environment and climate change. Thank you, Jenny, as well. And thank you for attending today. I didn't know if either of you want to bring in any points in there at all. Or...
Yes, I will do. Thank you, Mayor, and I really appreciate the opportunity to serve alongside you as your Deputy Mayor. And as you've outlined, you know, you've pushed really hard since you came into office 2 years ago to deliver for the people of York and North Yorkshire. And I am very much looking forward to the partnership that you and I will have in accelerating that further and bringing all the benefits of devolution combined authority to the people that we serve. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I just also want to say thank you. And I've been delighted to work alongside the Combined Authority and my Conservative colleagues in North Yorkshire for the Task and Finish Group on the Sustainable Future Strategy, and also with Lucy Alice on the Retrofit Strategy. I'm really excited to take this forward. There are so many opportunities in North Yorkshire and York for the environment, sustainability, and it's going to be an exciting year ahead. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp, as well. Thank you, everyone. So item 2 is apologies for absence. We've received a couple of apologies today. New member, Councillor Bob Webb, has been substituted by Councillor Jenny Kent, and Councillor Carl Les, who has been substituted by Councillor Simon Myers. Thank you both for coming along today. And if there's any further apologies, that was it, wasn't it? Thank you. Item 3 is the annual meeting committee appointments, membership and representation on outside bodies. Another wordy title. Report of the Director of Legal and Governance, Paul. Would you like to come in? Where?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as you've already explained, Mayor, this is the annual meeting of the Combined Authority. So it's the first formal meeting of the 26-27 municipal year. And as such, we have some housekeeping to do in terms of our appointments to committees and outside bodies. For brevity, I've included all of the appointments and the current membership in the appendix, but have broken down the recommendations into various decisions that need to be taken today. The first is the membership of the Combined Authority, and as you've already noted, we've had one change in membership on this group, which is Councillor Kilbane has been replaced by Councillor Bob Webb. The full list is included in the appendix to note. Substantively, we have the appointments that need to be made by the Combined Authority to the two statutory committees, the Audit and Governance Committee and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. These are politically proportionate committees that are based on the political representation across the region as a whole. and they're based upon nominations received from each of the constituent councils from their annual meetings that were held in May. For information, there have been some changes to last year. Some of them are just direct replacements within political parties. There have been a couple of changes in the political representation as well, due to the political balance changes in North Yorkshire Council. So these have been reflected, and the new nominations are included in the appendix. Elsewhere in the report, it's simply to note the other appointments that have been made to the Transport Advisory Board and the Business Board, and to note the appointments that you yourself have made, Mayor, for your Deputy Mayor and for your portfolio holders. So the recommendations are set out in the report. Happy to go through them individually or take some of them collectively if that's easier for members.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions or comments for Paul on that? Was that good?
Sorry, yeah, just a clarification. Thank you, Mayor. Given that the deputy mayor is a statutory role, does it actually state that I will become deputy mayor in these papers here? I'm not spotting it if I'm...
Not in this paper, Councillor Douglas, but these are mayoral appointments, and I think it's perfectly satisfactory for members to note that formally in this decision.
Okay, thank you.
Comments or questions? Are we happy to go through? So I recommend that we take these recommendations just in three parts. That's okay. So recommendation one, and then the others are separate as well. So recommendation one is to note the membership of the combined authority. So we seek a proposer and seconder that there.
Proposed.
Yeah, seconded.
And then all those in favour? Thank you very much. And then recommendation 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 and 9 gives the nominations in the appendix. So seek a proposer and a seconder for those as well.
Proposed.
Then all those in favour? Thank you. And then recommendation 4 and 5 is the appointment to the chair and vice chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, which is I propose Councillor Dave Merritt as chair and Councillor Cliff Lunn as vice chair, with both currently who serve in those roles. So because I've proposed that, do we just need a seconder for that? Simon, and then all those in favour?
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul, for that. Thank you, everyone. So part 2 is to the ordinary business. So item 4, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of May 2026. Minutes can be found on page 15 of the agenda pack. Are everyone happy to note those minutes? Everyone happy with those? Yeah. Any concerns yet? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Item 5 is declaration of interest. Anyone have any declarations of interest at all?
Just give me standard declaration in case the debate moves on to tourism tax and the likes. Given I've got a couple of units in Staith, we've been through all that before, so it's documented.
Item 6 is the exclusion of the public. So members will be aware that we recommend to exclude the public during consideration of the appendix to item 12 due to some commercial sensitivity. I'll therefore move to consideration of this item at the end of the agenda. So we'll be taking item 12 at the very end of the meeting if members are happy and content with that.
Just,
yeah, if we would have to.
There, on that point then, we won't necessarily remove members of the public unless we refer and discuss the stuff that's in the exemption.
Yeah, unless we go into detail of that, because there is some commercial sensitivity in there.
Just so so some conspiracy theories may well float around, and I wouldn't want that happening.
You live in a different world. Okay, item 7, public participation. Questions, sorry, and statements. Thank you very much. Item 8 is the mayor's update. If I'm being frank, this is probably one of the busiest months I've had in this role so far. I don't really feel like it stopped this last month, which is good, but it's been incredibly busy. So early this month, we made our first real stand at UK Reef, which is the UK's largest housing and infrastructure convention, putting York and North Yorkshire really firmly and clearly on the map of everyone there. It's great to see so many people come and hear about our vision for the county and to talk to us about how we can be involved in helping us to build the homes and the infrastructure that our county and its residents really need and deserve. I think just a special shout out to the entire team who really organised that, and to all the speakers that spoke on panels as well. I've written to them personally to thank them for giving up their time and energy on that week as well. I welcome the Chancellor to our pavilion at UK Reef, who confirmed that the government hub is located and will be coming to York Central, bringing several thousand civil servants jobs into York and the region as well, and open up even more opportunities for residents to get well-paid jobs in the county. We also marked a major milestone. That's the 3 millionth £1 under 19 bus fare user as well in this month. So this is huge and shows how in-demand bus travel is for young people, particularly across the region. And I'm committed to keeping this fare as low as possible while I am mayor. Earlier this month, I was invited by Ripon Bid and Visit Ripon to tour attractions and discuss with operators all that Ripon has to offer, like Water Valley, Newbury Hall, which was beautiful actually at that time of year, the racecourse and Fountains Abbey, which is my personal favourite place in the patch actually. I chaired our latest local visitor economy partnership meeting at the North York Moors Heritage Railway, complete with the steam engine that did come in. We had to stop the meeting for about 10 minutes because if there's one thing a steam engine, it's very noisy. Discussions with operators and the challenges they face and the opportunities for us to align with their priorities in that part of the world as well. Last weekend, I attended York Pride, where we were the headline sponsor. When I spoke from the main stage, I said that the whole day is about bringing people together and showcasing everything that makes York and our county great. As long as I'm mayor, the LGBT plus community will have an ally and someone standing up for them to make sure York and North Yorkshire is the most inclusive and beautiful county in the world. It was such a wonderful day. Nearly 20,000 people, I reckon, came to York that weekend, so it was brilliant for the local economy as well. Earlier this week, I actually did leave the patch to go to the Future Countryside conference at Raby Castle in Dun to talk about the role of devolution is playing in shaping the future of policy and leadership for rural communities, farming in the countryside. We're leading the way, I feel, across devolved areas in serving our communities, and that means we're putting rural affairs at the heart of everything we're doing. I also went to Bolton Bridge to attend the launch of the Natural Health Service, a collaboration between North York Moors Trust, both national parks, 2 national landscapes, so many people involved in this. I genuinely think this is an opportunity for us to really shift the dial on how we view health. NHS is having a big focus now on that preventative health piece. And the work that the 10-week pilot did, bear in mind that pilot was done over the winter as well, the darkest, gloomiest time of the year, the positive impact it had on so many people's lives in such a short period. So to be able to support that project for the next 18 months has been brilliant. And we've already had a lot of engagement from other participants and people who want to come and support us on that journey as well. So I think there's a huge opportunity around that. And again, thank you to particularly James Metcalf at the North York Moors Trust, who's really done a lot of work in that space. I think it's a really exciting opportunity. Yesterday, alongside Councillor Douglas, we welcomed the Prime Minister, the local government secretary to local government secretary to York Central to see the scale of one of Western Europe's largest brownfield developments. I welcome his commitment to help us increase the amount of social and affordable housing on the site as well, and a further £3 million to maximise the opportunity of the Central Hall at the National Rail Museum as well, which has been a really great another announcement there. The local government secretary and I then travelled to Scarborough to visit projects being funded through the government's Pride in Place programme, including investment into the Brunswick Centre, Stephen Joseph Theatre and the Turning Tides organisation, which is a wonderful organisation and charity that people should go and make a visit. And also finally yesterday as well in York, we hosted the Mayoral Council at the National STEM Learning Centre. Mayors from across the UK held conversation with the Prime Minister, the Chancellor also came, and the Work and Pension Secretary and Local Government Secretary as well. Great opportunities to talk about not just devolution, but particularly prioritised for ours. One big piece was around skills, actually, in the push to really press on how we can making sure we're engaging more young people and making sure they've got the skills and opportunities in York and North Yorkshire. So quite a full-on month, it has to be said, if I'm being honest. Any questions or comments? I know you were quite keen to talk about the visit yesterday, Councillor Douglas.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I'll echo that it's been a busy month, but I think it's also been tremendously productive and just shows the power of consistent messaging and representation of the region out to government and ministers, etc. And UK Reef was our first opportunity to collectively put our story forward for York and North Yorkshire, and the interest in our stand, and the sense of energy and optimism around what York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority has got to offer is doing, and bringing people together was just astounding. It was a very well received few days, and it was great to see everybody in one place and have the opportunity to further our discussions with various organisations and ministers around a range of issues. And then yesterday, the Prime Minister and Secretary of State, Steve Reid, coming to York to visit York Central, which is moving forward at a real pace. Another huge opportunity for the region, but also nationally as well. It's of national significance. The announcement of the GPA building, the civil service building, going ahead and unlocking £1.6 billion of public and private investment into our area and bringing really good quality jobs into York cannot be underestimated. I really valued that opportunity to speak directly with the Prime Minister and Secretary of State Steve Reid about York and the potential that it brings, but also some of our challenges that shouldn't be forgotten at the same time. So yeah, it was a great visit, and thank you for facilitating that.
Joe Coulter, you want to come in as well?
Thank you. I just wanted to say something really briefly in the kind of spirit of positivity and inclusivity of this particular forum, because in 10 days' time, it's going to be the 10-year anniversary of the murder of Jo Cox. Jo was someone who I knew before she was a Member of Parliament. I'd supported her with fundraising and things in her constituency when she was selected. And I just wanted to say on the, you know, we've got different political parties involved in the Combined Authority and across the region, but actually the thing that I always find in these meetings and in the work that we're doing across the region, we are, even if we don't agree with the decisions that other people are making, that we are having the debate about policy, we're having the debate respectfully, we're disagreeing respectfully with each other when we don't agree with each other. And I certainly have seen, and it is going on all the time, unfortunately, that both on social media, but also cross-party and across the country, some really horrendous personal attacks on people in elected positions. Certainly some PCC colleagues in other parts of the country have had some horrendous attacks on them personally in the roles that they have. So I just really wanted to make sure that as a collective, we were just marking the fact that that anniversary was coming up, but also that actually in this forum, even when we disagree politically or on a policy issue, actually there are always times when we'll always be respectful of each other and we'll always have more in common, as Jo said, than what will divide us. And I think that is as important now in the climate that we're all operating in as it was 10 years ago when she was killed. So I just, sorry to kind of be very serious there for a minute, but I just wanted to take the opportunity in this forum to say that, because I know we're cross-party across York and North Yorkshire, but actually we can all still work with each other respectfully. And I think and I think that we do that, and I think that that is one of the great positives of the Combined Authority and the way in which it works.
Thank you. You want to come in there?
I do, and I want to support what Jo said, and those of you that are not part of North Yorkshire Council know that I personally feel very strongly about the culture that's developing in the political discourse. And some of the statements I've seen made over the last few days, and will not talk about it, are not befitting of sensible adult politicians. Thankfully, in North Yorkshire, we don't resort to that, and I hope we never, ever will, because it goes beyond policy debate. And just touching on some of the abuse that some of Jo's colleagues have suffered, nobody can tell me, and I'm not going to name the individual, but we look back over back in 2016 to 19. Nobody can tell me it's right that it was a female actually, and females seem to suffer disproportionately than some male politicians do. that a female member of parliament suffered the abuse because of her stance on Brexit. She was a strong Remainer as it happens, but that's irrelevant, and ended up having a breakdown. And, you know, I won't disclose who it was because it was kept quiet for obvious reasons, but that's not right. And that's just one small example. And if we do anything, we send a very clear message that we're not putting up with some of the pernicious, nasty actions that are prevailing in other places. And if I have a breath in my body, I'll defend the right of you, Mr. If I may say, to you know, snaffle 20 odd million quid for money, and do it without fear of recourse, because that's what we're about.
You, Councillor, your ability to bring that into any conversation is unbelievably good. I will give you that. Would you like to go with Councillor Mann?
Yes, there was a debate in Westminster Hall yesterday on home to school transport, and Sir Julian Smith, MP for Skipton and Ripon, spoke in that debate. And one of the points he made at the outset of what he was saying was that whilst he didn't agree with the government, he wanted them to succeed. And I think we live in a very strange world where people who claim to be patriots thrive on the idea of the destruction of government and its failure. I'm very patriotic. I want the government to succeed for everybody in this country. I don't agree with, and I wish it were a different government, but I want them to succeed. And I think that that's something we should all take to heart. I want you to succeed, Mr. Mayor, even though we may have political differences. Because I care about the residents of North Yorkshire and I care about the residents of my country. The sort of vitriol that is entirely destructive and feeds on division is nothing but disservice to the people of this country. So, sorry, I could say a lot more about it, but I'll restrain myself. But we all must remember we're here to serve the public and the best interests of them. And Joe Cox was a prime example of somebody who effectively gave their life for that.
Absolutely agreed.
Was all well said. And I think also we're all very conscious this time of year as well, coming to the summer months. We've seen over the last few years that sense of community breakdown at times, and you know, things like riots and things that happen starting this time of year. So it's always very mindful. I know Joe is in regular engagement with the police as well, just to sort of, you know, be very mindful of community tensions and elections happening as well. Always, it's always very there, isn't it? And we've not really seen the impact on our streets that other surrounding areas have seen, but needless to say, we have to be very mindful of those community tensions.
Yeah, just on that point, and I'm not referring to the recent court case and convictions. I don't think that, but I think we'd all do well just to spare a thought for our police and those that are dealing with some of these tensions, because quite often they're having to take split-second decisions in very inflammatory circumstances. So it's, you know, it's very difficult for them. And I looked at how they were dealing, it was a few weeks ago actually, a few months ago, how they were dealing with some public disorder. And I thought, my God, for all the tea in China, I wouldn't like to be behind those fields. It's horrendous for them. And I've got to say, a lot of it's been promoted and encouraged by the use of clumsy words and rhetoric for nothing more than political gain.
That was nice. Yeah, all agreement. Well done, everyone. Stuff.
When we were discussing now, isn't it?
Over lunch. Okay, Thank you everyone for those comments. That's heartening to hear. Item 9, which is the 2025-26 budget Outturn report. So general budget report of the Director of Resources. Mike Russell. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mayor. This report presents the Combined Authorities Outturn financial performance for 2025-26, and alongside that causes updates to the 26-27 budget due to funding roll forward and some changes to settlements that have happened since the budget was agreed. Before I go into detail of the report, I'd like to note that there's a typo at paragraph 6.1. The value stated in the second line of the paragraph should be £52.351 million, not just £52.35. In terms of recommendations in the report, the recommendations are that members note the year-end financial position as at 31st of March 2026, note the position on reserves, approve the roll forward of funding from 2026 into 26-27, and approve the associated budget adjustments to update the 2026-2027 budget. These changes are important to ensure funding is aligned to delivery and that approved programmes can continue as planned. The recommendations contained in the budgetary approvals require majority approval, including approval by the leaders of each local authority in accordance with the Constitution. In terms of the year-end financial position, the authority delivered £127 million of expenditure against a budget of £169 million, giving a variance of £41.5 million. This variance reflects the way in which we needed to operate in 2025-26. Programme budgets were often set ahead of full funding confirmation and before delivery plans and pipelines could be fully developed. Set to allow commitment of funding, whereas delivery, particularly in transport, housing and skills, takes place over multiple years, and the Combined Authorities expenditure is subject to partner mobilisation and delivery timelines in accordance with agreed milestones. Funding is therefore carried into 2026-27 in line with delivery pipelines. The second part of the report covers budget roll forward and adjustments. The key decision for members today is how that funding is carried forward into this year. A total of 23.8 million of additional funding will be rolled forward into 2026-27 compared to the forecast that was used to set the assumptions and the basis of the budget. This represents funding that is already committed to programmes, but where delivery will take place in future years. In addition, 2.2 million of further adjustments are proposed to reflect updated funding allocations and confirmed changes since the budget was approved. All changes are summarised in detail in the appendix to the report. Taken together, this increases the 2026-27 budget by around £26 million, giving a revised total of £210.6 million. The roll forward is concentrated in key delivery areas, including transport, particularly the local transport fund and bus funding, some economic growth programmes where delivery is linked to partner timelines, skills programmes aligned to academic years, and housing, including the updated brownfield funding allocations linked to delivery timelines on those projects. Proving this ensures that funding follows delivery and the programmes can proceed at a realistic and deliverable basis. In summary, members, the authority remains in a strong and stable financial position and expenditures remain within the approved funding envelope. Variances principally reflect mobilisation and timing of delivery, and funding remains available and committed. All adjustments presented today realign the budget with how programmes will be delivered over the coming years. At that point, I'll open it to any questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments or questions they'd like to make for Mike on that?
Yeah.
Okay, recommendations can be found on page 31 and 30 of the agenda pack. A proposer and seconder.
Post.
Can I just ask, there's been nothing changed as other than that typo? I left the.
No, yeah.
I have read the report, so I feel comfortable.
Just change the typo and have a million rather than pounds. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, a proposer, seconder, and all those in favour?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Item 10 is the close of share prosperity fund. England Prosperity Fund, brought by the Deputy Economy, but Claire Robinson is going to lead on this.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It's a great privilege to bring forward the Share Prosperity and Rural England Prosperity Fund, sad to mark its closure. This has been a programme that's been funded by the government over the last 4 years. The final year of the programme has been managed by the Combined Authority. It demonstrates a great success of collaborative working between the three authorities, of which I'm hugely proud that at an operational level we've been able to join forces and see that delivery really affect hundreds and hundreds, thousands of lives. The fund has delivered significantly, both in its final year and the previous 3 years, on economic growth. So it really has been able to put money into businesses' hands to support that economic growth. But more importantly, it's really made a difference to individual lives in terms of the social economy and the health and well-being of residents across the region. We have seen that regionalisation has brought efficiencies in terms of the way that staff officers operate, and that we have seen that York and North Yorkshire have come together to be able to deliver across each other's patches, which has been most welcome and certainly a huge cost saving. The report is to mark the close of it. The evaluation report, which is an appendix to the report, is a really great read, I would say that, but a great read, please, if anybody has time to dip into that. It's got some case studies in it. And I think that as we bring forward more of the impact of the shared prosperity, we will see more and more case studies coming forward. That's where you truly understand the individual life differences it's made. In this last year, we've seen 6,500 people more digitally connected, absolutely significant in a rural powerhouse. We've seen over 2,000 members of the public who are the furthest from the employment market inch closer, and many succeed into employment where previously they hadn't. And over 1,600 businesses just in this last year supported both financially and non-financially to improve their business. The Mayor mentioned that something that came out of the report was the Natural Health Service, a pilot project in this last year, funded through SPF, will now go on to great things nationally, we believe, and certainly we're behind that type of initiative or innovation coming out of funds such as Shared Prosperity, to go on to put York and North Yorkshire on the map as trailblazing in some of those really fundamental UK potentially impactful programmes. I would thank all officers across York and North Yorkshire who have contributed to the success of the programme, and take any questions if necessary.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you for your work on it as well, and particularly notes on page 38 where it's showing funds received, funds spent, 100% spent is always a good sign. But yeah, these have been sort of hugely impactful and successful. Millions and millions going into the economy, into employment, business, to supporting our impact to reduce carbon as well, supporting through visitor economy, supporting all businesses, through things like solar panels, businesses, farms, community infrastructure, the whole lot. Seeing the first hand, particularly the community buildings fund, I thought was like a really great project. And since I was there, we've supported 73 projects across 65 communities, particularly one, the Wish project in Whitby, which was a fantastic organisation over in Whitby, the York Citadel project as well, Chain Lane organisation in Knaresborough, which is an amazing organisation. If you ever get a chance to go visit them in Knaresborough, and the Skipton Community Sports Hub as well, particularly for the projects I've really enjoyed going to see. And obviously that funding is supporting thousands of people and businesses across the region. That's what we're all here to do. So I thank both local authorities for their work, particularly Claire and your team, on how much work you've put into that as well, and how well you've got that money out the door quickly and efficiently as well. So thank you, Claire, for your work as well. Do members have comments or questions? Would you like to come in there, Councillor Mars and then Councillor Douglas?
Go ahead.
I was going to thank Claire. I chaired one of the panels on the Shared Prosperity Fund for the first 3 years before. Honestly, I'd like to thank Mark and Charlie, who really went beyond anything in their job descriptions to deliver for our residents. And I think we all know examples of where this has really made a difference. And the Mayor mentioned Sandylands and Skipton, the Skipton Sports Hub. really transformational. I went to the opening of the new facility for gymnastics. It's, I think, one of the largest community sports organisations in certainly in North Yorkshire, but probably more widely. They've hugely benefited, and you alluded to sort of community facilities, Mayor, and I'm being very parochial. Hellerfield is really where I live. And Hellerfield Institute is the one community focal point in that village, which has lost its pub. It's about to lose its post office. Apart from the church, that's the only facility, and yet it wasn't accessible to many residents. And funding from this now means they have a fully accessible community hub. It is transformational for that village. So what a relatively small amount of money, but for a community to raise that is a challenge too far. So that made that project deliverable. I'm very grateful for that. And I think it's worth noting, when people think that we just waste public money, that for every pound invested, the outturn was £5.70 in economic benefit. If we could all get money returned like that on our investments, we'd be very happy to do. Well done, everybody involved.
And you took part in some gymnastics while you were over there, did you as well?
I'm sorry.
Just you took part in some in the gymnastics while you were over there at the
I didn't take part in any gymnastics. They had. It was suggested. Roger Beck, who's the chairman, somewhat older, quite a large chair, also declined the invitation to take part.
But you're right, all those community buildings, hubs, it doesn't have to be a sports club, a village hall, whatever it may be. That's why we've had a big focus on that. They are the heart of so many of our towns and our rural communities, aren't they? So to be able to support those, become those wider hubs, those places where people come together, is so invaluable. So be it a sports club, a church hall, a village hall, it's valuable to so many communities. So the more we can do to support them, then I'm all for it, really. Yeah. Any more points? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I totally agree, and it's fantastic to see communities really benefiting from that investment across those years. But I think it's also really valuable and important to look at the statistics on businesses supported as well. So 1,623 businesses received support against a target of 500, which is absolutely fantastic delivery as well. And when you look at the cost benefit ratio for supporting local businesses, for every pound spent, it's actually £9.4 that came back into the economy, which it cannot and should never be underestimated. And many of these businesses are very small, and they are the lifeblood of our economy across York and North Yorkshire, and a huge strength and benefit to us. So thank you for everybody who facilitated that with our local businesses, and I'm glad to see that the Combined Authority continues to find other ways of supporting them too, now this fund's come to a close.
Any more questions or comments? Are we okay there? Recommendations can be paid on page 45 of the agenda pack. A proposer and seconder for these ones.
Opposed?
Yeah, and second, and all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Claire. Item 11 is the delivery update for 25-26. Joint report for the Director of Economy and the Director of Transport. Robinson.
Thank you. And the reason why we focus so much or possibly speak to delivery is that my role is to head up what we call the Integrated Delivery Unit within the organisation, which helps to mobilise a lot of money and opportunities out on the ground in a very operational and practical way. So again, it's privileged to report the outturn of 25-26 for us across 50 programmes that the unit has helped to facilitate the delivery of. And that's no mean feat in terms of the amount of money. Thank you, Mike, for confirming 127,000 actually out of the door. So for us, that equates to around 50 programmes, which, thank you to our legal team, was approximately 460 grant funding agreements, and each one of them has been passed through legal's hands, and there's been a huge amount of work. 82 contracts. Thank you very much to our procurement team for supporting the facilitation of that. And certainly in terms of the finance team in supporting us to ensure that every penny has been accounted for, both on the delivery side and back into the account. So a huge collective effort in terms of getting that money out. But more importantly for me, I guess that does go on then to affect so many lives across a number of areas, transport, housing, communities, etc. We hope that in the report that you will see that there is some outcomes reported. Obviously, at this point within any year, as the year closed down in March, we're still collating the impact and outturn of that in terms of outputs and outcomes. We hope to present more of the impact that monies have had in an annual report close to September. This year very much has been on us focusing on getting the financials and the governance right internally, reminded that we are still a relatively young combined authority and those processes are all still emerging. So mobilising money in that emerging sort of administrative state is at times challenging, but we focus this year on really ensuring that the accountants, the accountancy of it and the governance of it was right and proper. Next year, when we're looking at the mobilisation of funds, we will be concentrating much more on the outputs and the outcomes of programmes that are looked at over the coming year and reflecting on the previous year. So delighted to bring you from Economy and Transport Directorates this type of report with the numbers in it that there are. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Claire. When you see, this is saying at the start, we see a report like this, you can see the scale and support that's been offered to businesses and communities and organisations, and often we don't take a moment just to stop and reflect. But investments say 128 million, unlocking total investment of 446 million to our communities. Business growth hub and the business support side of things. Growth hub, sorry, supported 2,000 businesses just last year alone. Numbers we don't talk about anywhere near enough, do we? But that's huge. Education, employment, training, 600 new learners just on wave 6 alone of the skills boot camp, providing those essential skills. One great one was for the HGV licence for young people in particular. What a great initiative and opportunity. Again, we need to be shouting about this stuff because that's a great thing. Environmental impact as well. The mayoral renewable funding, so getting particularly solar panels on Yearsley Pool, which is obviously improving the infrastructure and saving the taxpayers a lot of money on that project there. Transport, the launch and award has been very much oversubscribed. Mayor's Active Travel Fund, which I think is probably just about the most oversubscribed fund that we've had, and seeing the projects coming out of those as well. And so much more is obviously always happening. It feels like so much of that is happening now, as you say. All those contracts and legals, everything's been done, they're delivered, and now these projects are getting this funds, and we're seeing it all come to light now, which I think right at the minute seems even so much more busy because all that hard work that's been done back at office, back at ranch is now coming out into full fruition, isn't it? And we're seeing it. So an amazing work. And again, Claire, thank you and your team who's really led on that stuff. It's been brilliant. Any comments and questions for Claire? Would you like to come in there?
Thank you. Thanks. And I totally agree, Mayor. It's absolutely fantastic to see this activity and delivery going out into communities, and many of the councillors here today have already acknowledged the impact that that's had. And as Councillor Myers said earlier about the impact on the community facilities, 126 facilities have been improved for access and capacity across York and North Yorkshire, which is an amazing statistic. And then something else that is hugely important to us as well is that the brownfield housing sites, whilst not actually tackling all of our housing issues by any means, but certainly using the land that is available to us to use here and now, has committed to 1,385 new homes, 65% of which are affordable, and that is really important to an area where our affordability issues across York and North Yorkshire are so acute. So I think this really needs to be celebrated, and thanks to everybody who's been involved in delivery on any form for our communities across the area.
Any more questions or comments? Let's go in there.
I just wonder, it's not directly related to this, but you know, it's all good news, and every scheme in isolation is good news, and you can see an outcome. I just wonder how we track what the actual effect in terms of economic activity, for example, is when taken together, because it's great, isn't it, that we can all sit here and point to what we see as positive outcomes. But if we were, I'm making figures up now, so please don't quote me. If our unemployment rate for, you know, 16s to 25s was 2%, the national average was 4%. That's the base. So after a period, not just in employment, I'm on about a whole range of factors. I wonder if there's a way that we can track if we are, you know, outperforming the national trend, because we know it's difficult for business, for example. So the chances are we're not going to see a fall in unemployment in North Yorkshire. I suspect, I don't know, because of things like NI rises and the likes that makes it doubly difficult. But so basically, in summary, I'm saying have we considered a set of KPIs or outcome indicators that will say that this combined authority and the work of the two local authorities has actually, you know, in reality made a tangible difference?
I know James is keen to come in, and then Claire, I'll bring you back if you want to bring a point on that as well.
Yes, so I'm sure Claire will pick this up, but each programme individually gets evaluated, so you look at that. But when you're looking at the collective, we've now got a statutory duty to do an independent economic assessment of the region. So Andrew will be leading that piece of work. So on an ongoing basis, we'll be monitoring the health of people, and that we obviously contribute our element to it, but there are clearly a range of wider factors which we are outside our control, but we will be producing a kind of an economic assessment which is monitoring that on an ongoing basis.
Or Andy as well, maybe possibly.
Andy, I'll let Andy come in first. Thank you.
And I'd just say any programme we design as well goes through a logic model process, which very clearly asks what are we trying to achieve and what outcomes we're trying to get to, and really bridges across to say, how is this going to that, to what output, and how does that output drive our outcomes? So everything is built in design, it's evaluated, and what we want to do obviously is continue to evolve that. So as a combined authority, we're very evidence driven in terms of the impacts that we're having, and we're making sure we're getting more and more intelligent with designing programs to try and shift the dial on a lot of those big macro things as well that we want to achieve as a region.
Just thank you for that. And it's always going to be difficult, and I'm not advocating creating a whole bureaucracy in industry in terms of outcome. That's the last thing I would ever do. But I was reminded this morning, I think it was this morning, I heard Andy Burnham wax lyricking about Manchester being the fastest growing economy in the UK and all the rest of it, and taking great credit for it. That might well be justified, and he might well not be there shortly. David, you're not going as well, are you? Are you not challenging a by-election or something, are you? You're here for the full term? But you know, we see Manchester make claims like that. If we're successful in 5 years' time, we should be making similar claims, and that's success to me.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, Gav. We're not just doing the work for the sake, but we have to have starting point and end point and actually see us on that journey. I know we do already have some of those numbers around about our skills attainment. Now, not all that is down to us. That's our great education system that we have in terms of our schools, our universities. But we do have some of those figures. And to Andy's point, we are very driven on that data and understanding that, are we moving in the right direction? Are we shifted out? If not, then what do we need to do better and differently? But as a combined authority, we have a duty of care, responsibility to actually be improving things, don't we? And if what we're doing isn't doing that, then we have to be looking at that and say, how how we can do things differently in an area like ours. But certainly I've got all the confidence in the world that the work we've done so far is definitely put us on that journey to be in those kind of positions. But again, we are always compared to the bigger combined authorities who have been around for a decade, who have been able to do all this and have been able to do all that groundwork almost hidden away. You know, there hasn't been a spotlight on combined authorities like there is now. And first part of Andy's term in particular, or Steve, whoever it may be, was kind of just off in the distance when no one knew what a combined authority or what a mayor was, whereas now we're in a different position. But I take that as an opportunity to move even faster, quite frankly. We don't have the time to waste, and I've got no interest in wasting any time whatsoever. So yeah, we're cracking on. Did you want to bring any more in on that, Andy?
No, just just to reassure everybody that all the activities are aggregated at a macro level to actually see what they are contributing to the economic framework, which is sort of what we work to across the Economy Directorate in particular. So we do relate them back, and I think hugely and welcome the opportunity that a corporate plan will be brought to the table, you know, during the late summer of this year, which again will help us understand when we're designing and developing programmes, actually where are we feeding up into those macro figures that, you know, the ambition that we want to do. So hugely take on board and welcome the challenge to actually ensure that that is a rich part of what we're developing this year against our outcomes frameworks and all of those type of things you would expect us to have. But that definitely is my team and the wider team's focus for this year.
Briefly wanted to highlight that I think actually York, no doubt aided by your mayoral investment funds and support, is outperforming regionally and nationally on some levels and some indicators. So it's already doing well. And I echo everything that everyone said, but it'd be really great to see that piece of work, which no doubt benchmarks across regions and nationally. So you will actually be able to draw conclusions, albeit with multiple factors coming in. But this is absolutely a fundamental part of it. So thank you.
Okay, so recommendations on page 91 of the agenda pack. Do we get a proposer, please?
Post.
And a seconder. Thank you. And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you. So we'll go to item 13, which is the local growth delivery plan report of the Director of the Economy. Andy, on this one.
Yeah, I'll just do a brief introduction to this and then just hand over to Andrew to add a bit of detail. But the local growth delivery plan basically follows on from the local growth plan, which was approved by the Combined Authority in July 2025. That local growth plan establishes that long-term vision we were just talking before about where do we want the economy to go, how do we want to improve the region. And the local growth plan very much sets that long-term vision for driving regional economic growth. Since we adopted that local growth plan, we've worked incredibly hard across partners, stakeholders, local authorities, everybody in the region who's got a role to play in helping us deliver that growth, and have developed up the first of what will be a series of short to medium term delivery plans to try and drive that long-term vision. That gives us something that's got real tangible actions with clear ownership of those actions to help make sure we're realising the vision, but it also means it can remain a very live, flexible document that allows us to shift, change and adapt where things are working based on the evidence we've got, or where there are economic macro headwinds or political changes, etc., so that the long-term vision remains where we're all headed, but how we get there can shift with time and make sure that we're really driving outcomes and outputs which talk, as we were just talking, to that high level vision we want to achieve. So Andrew, now hand over to you just to draw out some of the detail.
Yeah, so what I just wanted to briefly do is to look at this as an operational plan, and particularly the way in which we've set some of the things out. So first of all, we've obviously, as Andy said, he's followed the local growth plan as being the basis for this of that. But first of all, the first key objective really is to embed that growth with purpose across all its activities. So that's the first thing that we're quite clear to do. And then we've set out a series of delivery objectives. First one around the growth in our competitive advantage sectors. And in paragraph 7 onwards, there's a summary of the table that's included as it's brought out key elements from detailed documents But some of those things around the work that we're doing on our sectors and the clusters, developing things that are coming to this combined authority shortly. Sustainable future. So all those things help us to deliver against our growth plan, and therefore this isn't just about a single fund or a single policy context. We can bring all those different elements together. So the first delivery objective is really around how we target those competitive advantage sectors. The second delivery objective is looking at enhancing the growth and resilience of the key employment sectors. So things like the work that we're doing on manufacturing, visitor economy, some of those other sectors that really employ quite a significant amount of people in this area. And in particularly delivering that sort of core business support function that we've had through the growth, but also through the local authorities, where we've already allocated some of the local growth funding to support. And then objective 3 is really around infrastructure, and particularly around our one of our ambitions to sort of look at accelerate residential and commercial development, and the importance of how we can do that, and the importance that we need to be investing in the infrastructure to do it. So how we can utilise things like strategic place partnership further, how we can start to look at growth corridors, and link into things like the housing growth strategy, the retrofit strategy, and other plans that we've got, and the transport plan particularly, but looking at that investment in infrastructure. And delivery objective 4 really is around investing in people, so the skills agenda, but recognising that there is approximately around £30 million annually that's coming to the combined authority to support skills and people. But where is it that we need to maybe add value to that through the local growth, and particularly around sector growth programmes for skills and such like. And then finally, the objective 5 is really about looking at how we can start to work more with key investors. So we started already through UK Reef to talk to investors, but also things like pension funds and others about how we can actually mobilise different investment opportunities to get funding in to be able to deliver what we want to do. So that's how the delivery plan is set out. It's very operational. The actions are and that's its intention. So that's part of it. Also, as part of the report, just the fact that there's a local growth fund of £40 million, and we already approved at the last meeting some of that to be able to start mobilising year 1 of that fund, but also to support some of the capacity and also some of that business support. This report also proposes that for this year a further £1 million is approved to take on some of the mayoral investment funding, which is already going to business innovation fund. So it gives us more flexibility over some of the mayoral investment funds to do more, but also £1 million to scale up some of those really successful business support programmes that we've already got. So there's also that as part of the recommendations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Andy and Andrew. And yes, that's build on securing that 40 million local growth fund that we managed and how that links in other funds. But as you've touched on there, Andrew, as well as how we leverage that over greater investment. I think that was a big key takeaway for me, particularly from UK Reef, was there is money out there, and we need to go and be making sure that we're making the most of that. If we can't just be relying on the money that we have now, we have to be going and speaking to those other big investors who want to quite clearly want to come and work in our patch. So how we leverage as much of that as possible to bring even that greater sums, which look at previous reports that presented by Claire as well, our ability to do that has been pretty even greater with this as well. And yeah, as again, it's not just about prioritising, those key growth sectors we've been highlighting, but it's really all those core sectors as well that we have across our region as well, which are so much part of our everyday economy, that employs so many people and drives so much of our economy, things like tourism, hospitality, manufacturing, other areas as well. So thank you, Andrew, for that. Comments or questions for Andrew? That's coming there.
Thank you. Yeah, two things really. One is to emphasise the importance of this. Across Yorkshire, as Councillor Douglas has said, the affordability of housing is a really big issue, and there are two factors in that. One is the price of housing and rents, and the other is that we're a low-wage economy. North Yorkshire is a low wage economy. And so upskilling our workforce, moving away from minimum wage jobs as being the staple is terribly important. And I welcome anything that helps to achieve that. And then the only other thing really I wanted to emphasise, and I know that in the body of the report on page 114, the competitive advantage sectors do refer to the creative industries. I'm mindful of the meeting that the Mayor and I and the Arts Council and the NPOs in York and North Yorkshire had in York recently. I just ask people to have that very much in mind. The creative industries are one of the fastest growing sources of employment in this country, and they deliver what a friend of mine used to call jobs that pay mortgages. So let's not lose sight of that, and sure working with the partners and the enthusiasm that we had in the room that day, Mayor, then I'm sure we can help develop that sector. But it is a bit of a USP for North Yorkshire. We have, although it's spread out, it's not very coherent. I think we can achieve a lot working with partners and actually trying to make it a more coherent offer.
Just on that point on the creative, we did have a very brief follow-up the other day with Arts Council and the NPOs, and we're sort of, I suppose, working out the best route to how to bring those together. So it must be a collective of organisations that help us to develop what we're trying to do, and you know, very much with them. Great opportunity around there is there's so many of them. They're in all across the region. They represent lots of different areas of the creative sector as well. Again, it's really, when we look at our unique opportunities, it's actually what are the unique opportunities within those sectors. So we talk about relevation or creative, what's our USP into that, and how we can make the most of that, and how we can use those organisations who are the experts in the room to help to feed into what we're trying to do, and how we can build on their successes already and work with people like Arts Council England to really ramp that work up, because we do have an asset there that is brilliant and really well established. It's how we really build on that and make the most of it with the offering across the region. Actually, it's really impressive. Do you want to come in there?
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, it's great to see this coming through. It's a hugely important part of our collective work to make sure that our economy is firing on all cylinders, and this is a step in that direction. And I'm really keen to see and happy to see about reinvesting wealth and the community wealth building aspects of this, using our anchor institutions like our large employers that vary across our area to actually keep those pounds in our area. It's really important. So I'm thinking Siemens in Scarborough, for example, Nestle in York, our health service, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this come to further fruition. I'm also really happy to see that we are making progress already on some of these targets and sector cluster formation. For example, we had the Minister for Rail, Sir Peter Hendy, with us recently in York to talk about our rail sector cluster and the innovation opportunity there. And I'm really very heartened and excited about the speed at which the sector wants to move, come together and draw that external funding and investment into our region. It's hugely exciting, but I'm also aware that we need to go out and sell what we have got. We did that at UK Reef and started that process, as the Mayor's already mentioned, of talking to those investors that were very present there. And I really want to see that we've got a saleable prospectus of opportunities that we can collectively speak to whenever we get that opportunity, to make sure that our communities are benefiting from it. So I was just wondering if the officers can perhaps outline how this document sits alongside anything else that's being done in the combined authority to make sure that we're speaking to government and the private sector at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this delivery plan is very much capturing all the activity that we're going to do and drive forward at an operational level. Alongside that, Combined Authority approved investment framework approach last year, which as part of that, we committed to producing an investment prospectus. So we did launch that at UK Reef, and we stood there and we had it physical copies around, but the version of that is available on the website now, but it's a live document and one that we'll continue to keep updating, make sure that we've really captured the investment opportunities in the region. And we are shaping that via an investor forum where we're talking directly to the investors to make sure we're putting that in the right language, presenting it in the way that they understand, to make sure that we can capture as much investment into York and North Yorkshire as possible.
Great, thank you.
I think just expand on that as well, Andy. We've had conversations with investors, with the private sector as well, just to even make sure the language and the terminology that we're speaking is the right one. Because quite often you speak to an investor, a developer, government, general public, it can be almost a whole raft of different messages you're presenting to make sure what we've got is also being presented in the right way that investors can see what the opportunity is there as well. So we do a lot of work around that as well, which is gone well. Thank you for that. So, recommendations on 128 of the agenda pack. See a proposer for this one.
Proposed.
And a seconder. All those in favour? Very much. Thank you very much. Item 14 is the draft local transport plan and permission to consult. Director of Transport, Claire. Over to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Morning, everyone. You've got a lot of me. I'll hand over to Rebecca shortly, who's our transport planning and policy manager, who's done a significant amount of work on developing our joint overall local transport plan over the last 6 months. Just to set some brief context, though, the requirement for a local transport plan is statutory, is set by the government. That function transferred from the two local authorities to us when we became combined authority as part of our remit as the local transport authority. So we've been developing this at pace. I won't steal Rebecca's thunder. I'll hand over to you to go through that in more detail.
Thank you, Claire. As I said, members will be aware that the requirement for local transport plan is statutory. Formation of the combined authority, that requirement passed over to the combined authority transport authority. So work began in earnest towards the end of last year on the development of a new mayoral local transport plan for York and North Yorkshire. This report sets out the progress that's been made in development of that plan. It sets out some of the key elements of the plan itself, and then also sets out the next steps that will be required to move the local transport plan to adoption, including requesting permission for undertaking statutory consultation. So in terms of the local transport plan, it's a key transport policy and strategy document that covers the entire combined authority area. It sets out the Mayor's strategy and vision for all aspects of transport, and includes transport in its widest possible sense. Through the local transport plan, the policies that we look to bring forward in order to meet our vision that we set out at a high level. We also look at how we can work with other key policies, both within the combined authority and our constituent local authorities, to ensure that there's a consistent approach and to ensure that transport can underpin the development of those, of delivery of those policy aims as well. In terms of the development of the local transport plan, new guidance on development of LDPs was published by the Department for Transport in April. This was alongside the publication of the transport strategy. So as we've already started work on drafting the local transport plan, we have worked to try to ensure that as much of what is set out in the guidance and that new strategy, that new national transport strategy, are reflected in our draft plan. In terms of how we've brought the plan together, having to develop the draft plan, we've worked very closely with our two constituent authorities, particularly in terms of working with their transport planning officers, but also with a wider range of officers as well, through a number of workshops and informal meetings. We've worked with members from both authorities as well, through groups like the Transport Advisory Board, and the Combined Authorities Scrutiny Committee. We'll continue as we move forward on the sort of through the consultation that on the plan to continue to have that engagement with those groups as well to ensure that all the relevant voices are heard in terms of how the plan is brought forward. We've also worked with officers from the National Park authorities as well, bearing in mind that they're the planning authorities within their own areas. In terms of the local transport plan, it's been developed to take account of the very diverse and varied nature of the geography within York and North Yorkshire, and it doesn't take a one-size-fits-all approach to transport strategy. Through the plan itself, there is an approach to different place types, different modes, and also sort of key network principles as well in terms of how we'd like to approach transport improvement throughout the region. The guidance for the new local transport plan sets out that they must ensure a vision for integrated transport in their area. And we try very much to ensure that's the case. This means that we sort of move away from the predict and provide model, which was the old approach to transport planning, to very much look at what our vision is, what the mayor's objectives are for transport in the area, and how through the policies that we include in that plan, we look to bring them forward and deliver against those. Also sets out the approach that we'll take in terms of the delivery plan and how we'll submit that to government. But that delivery plan will look at sort of investment in terms of capital and revenue. Whilst the plan itself isn't submitted to the government for scrutiny, the Department of Transport will want to monitor our progress through a series of metrics annually through the local transport outcomes framework, but we're also working to develop our own local metrics of relevance to ensure that we actually want to. In terms of the report, it is the LTP, so it is appended to the report. It sets out the vision, transport includes a case of change, sets out network principles and more specific chapters. Some of those most specific chapters are set out at quite a high level, and the intention is that once we've gone through the consultation process over the summer and into the autumn, we will then look to start work on some more detailed sub-strategies, again working with colleagues in the local councils to ensure we have that real detail in terms of policies and how those policies will work on the ground. So it might be in terms of setting up mechanisms for those policies, but also maybe the places in which some of these will be particularly relevant. We appreciate that what is relevant for York may not necessarily be relevant in, say, the Upper Dales or in Scarborough. So it's very much a case of really fleshing out the meat and bones in those sub-strategies. But the LTP itself does set out the high level of policy and how we attempt to approach that. Just in terms of engagement on the plan, we look to build very much on the engagement that's been undertaken by both councils in recent years. So North Yorkshire Transport and City of York, our big transport conversation. And we use a lot of that data when starting to transport plan. It wasn't a blank sheet of paper that we started from. As I mentioned, we've worked with various member groups. We also formed a specific stakeholder citizens panel, for this piece of work, and also engagement stakeholders with a survey and some smaller workshops as well. What we'll look to do through the statutory consultation in summer again is to engage more heavily with those groups and really get to the crux of any concerns that have in terms of the draft plan as it stands currently. Just getting on to the consultation. One of the recommendations of this report is that we need permission to go out to consultation on the plan. That's a statutory requirement of developing a local transport plan. Our suggestion is that would take around 12 weeks. We're looking to procure support from specialist consultancy to help us with that, particularly to ensure that we can target hard to reach groups and also the geography of the region, which obviously is significant. The intention is that consultation ideally will start at the beginning of August, end by October, and then we have a short period of time of praising the results of that consultation and looking to amend the local transport where necessary to ensure that those suggestions are reflected in the plan. In terms of the next steps then, beyond that, the recommendation that's written suggest that we come back to update the plan, and then we'll come back to the combined authority for comment prior to submitting to the mayor for final approval and adoption. I think the recommendation as in the report is actually incorrect. I'd like to suggest that the combined authority have the opportunity to review that final version of the plan when it's completed.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. So just to clarify, we're going to amend the third recommendation. Rachel, do you just want to read out the full recommendation so people have it?
It's amendment to 2.3 of the report, which is that the combined authority notes that on conclusion of that consultation, the LTP will be updated as necessary to take account of consultation and brought back to the combined authority for comment prior to being submitted to the mayor for approval and adoption in early 2027.
I will propose that as an amendment. Do we have a seconder to support that? Thank you. Thank you. Harmony.
On amendments.
So then we'll vote for all three recommendations all together when we go to the vote.
What about the amendment? I think we need to vote on the amendment itself.
Yeah.
So, okay. Both second it and I'll vote on that change to the amendment. Happy? What a process. It's a good job you're here, Claire. Thank you. So yeah, just to run over that a little bit. So thank you for all the work on that. I can't imagine how much work that's been. It is the first mayor's transport plan for the county, and it's really important that it is ambitious and it really meets the requirements and needs of our public. And it's really, really important that the public really engage in this consultation, because it really is for them, and particularly in those hard to reach areas, our rural, our coastal communities who have been and do feel left behind year after year by transport. And this has to be the bare minimum, this ambition. We have to go further with transport and make sure it works for everyone. So particularly good to see the focus on the consultation with the public and making sure we do that engagement right. We've had really good experience of doing consultations with our police and fire and our precept, and we know from doing those in the past we have had those hard to reach places, which are not always actually geographically the hard to reach places. Quite often it's people or an age group. So it's making sure that young, old, and wherever you are based in the region, that you are having a real impact and say in this transport plan. Would you have to come in there?
Yeah, sorry, I perhaps should have commented earlier, but you've just prompted me, inspired me, Mr. Mayor. I think above anything else, it's got to be deliverable. It's all well and good being ambitious, but if you ain't got the money behind it, we're not going to deliver it. And I wouldn't like expectations to be raised. I talk particularly about buses, because let's be frank, we can send buses around North Yorkshire at fairly regular intervals that'll transport little more than air in some places. So above anything else, let's not mislead the public that this is going to be easy and it is going to be something that will be revolutionary, because it won't be. I'll just leave that.
I think it's really important that we start viewing transport differently, and we have to show that ambition, because we can't do same as normal. We have to be improving. I think we do have to show ambition. We have to show that ambition to government as well. If we're not showing that ambition, then we are always going to fall short on funding, and that's our opportunity. That's where other combined authorities, when they've been ambitious, that's where they've been able to get that extra fund. We carry on in saying that we are what we are, then that's what we'll always be. We've got to be bold and ambitious with our transport. Councillor Douglas, and then Councillor Mars with me.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree with you, Mayor. And you know, obviously it's a challenge. It always is, isn't it? And delivering services of any type for hundreds and thousands and millions of people is difficult, and it's difficult with a restricted envelope. But different services will work in different environments, and that's what that flexibility of what we look at and how it delivers to the communities is really important, isn't it? And I'm really keen that the final version of the plan is stronger in representing the ambition that York has around its transport system, which of course is very different to what it will be in Skipton, for example. But it is important that what our public has told us in York a number of times over many years is reflected, and that we collectively, through the combined authority, move forward with that. And I know that officers have committed to taking that into account and working with our officers to make sure that our policy aims are carried through within the city boundaries of York. So I thank everybody for all the work that's been done on this and look forward to seeing how it develops following the consultation. Thank you.
Councillor Myers and then Joe Coles.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, ahead of the responses you will get the consultation from some very well-informed people down in Craven, and considering the ambition that you've expressed, and I have great ambition for public transport, particularly down in Craven, but more broadly for North Yorkshire. If you look at the map on page 189, which shows the strategic road network and the major road network and the railway line stations, and you look at Skipton, that glorious place just towards the left of this, and you see the Settle Carlisle railway chugging off there towards Lancashire and up past Ribblehead and so on. But if you go 2 stops up from Skipton towards Ribblehead, the second dot is Hellerfield. There is in fact a railway line in existence that runs passenger services from Hellerfield via Clitheroe to Manchester and Rochdale. It's the only connection between North Yorkshire by train and Lancashire without leaving the county. And Lancashire is extremely economically important to Skipton and the Dales. We are, in fact, economically more linked to West Riding, the old West Riding, and to East Lancashire. That's where our history and our trade and our people come from. And so could I just ask, when people are being ambitious about public transport, that they bear that existing rail connection in mind? At the moment, we have services at the weekend, and it's, for me, a real thing that, because it's a priority for the Lancashire Combined Authority. It's in part of their transport plan. So I just ask that everything else is very important too, but that is transformational in my view.
We're always trying to build those strong links between Lancashire, aren't we?
Absolutely right. Peace has broken out.
I know officers are working with Lancashire CA on that called Skipton line. I think that's a really important factor for us in our patch, is actually that out of our borders transport in and out, actually all around the region. Actually, you know, the connectivity between Selby and South Yorkshire, between York and Leeds, and Harrogate and Leeds and elsewhere, how people move in and out of our region is incredibly important and vital for not just for work, for business, for health, for education, everything actually. So how we look outwards and how we look inward is incredibly important. Absolutely, yeah. Sorry, did you want to go in, Joe? Sorry, yeah.
Thanks. Just thank you to Claire and Rebecca for the paper and the draft plan, which is really exciting. I think, but I do think there's always going to be a real challenge in making sure that it meets the needs of both local authorities and also meets the wider kind of missions that I know that you've got across health and other kind of areas of policy. I just wanted to add 2 bits of policy context that are in there. I just wanted to make sure that they were in there, kind of in line with the other kind of strategic plans that are out there. And also just, I wanted to say something about the engagement process, because as the Mayor just set out, we already have an engagement team for the Combined Authority that currently sits in the Police, Fire and Crime Directorate, and actually just making sure that we deploy that as effectively as possible, I think, is probably key to making sure that we land this engagement in the best possible way. So just on the policy context, so really pleased to see already in there references to safety and particularly the safety of more vulnerable residents. The Violence Against Women and Girls strategy that was published just before Christmas talks about the need for the approach to tackling violence against women and girls to need to be everyone's business. So having that integrated into a transport plan feels really, really positive and a really good step forward. And then secondly, the road safety strategy was published by the government just after Christmas in January. And I'll resist the urge to name all the parishes across the region that I've possibly named in a previous meeting, and obviously the list is much longer now, but it's Road Safety Month in July, and just making sure that the work the Road Safety Partnership is doing is integrated into the transport plan would also be, it is currently, I recognise that there are already references in there, but just making sure that we get that work that the partnership are doing aligned with the plan, so that we don't end up out of kilter with different bits of the organisation operating in different speeds. It is really challenging doing effective engagement across York and North Yorkshire to make sure that you don't not hear from certain cohorts of people. It is really important that we reach people unbelievably under the age of 50 is the age that you have to aim for, because we are underrepresented always in every consultation that we do with people under 50 in every aspect and in every part of the region, so just a particular plea to try and make sure that we reach younger audiences, partly because one of my biggest concerns, particularly around road safety, but also in other areas, is making sure that young people, particularly when they don't live in a city, but want to be able to access training and employment or other opportunities, are able to do that effectively. And that does mean public transport. It also means making sure that our road safety strategy doesn't penalise young people inadvertently as well. So just a real plea to make sure that we make sure that those younger people are properly engaged in this, because this is something where if we do get it right, there is a real opportunity to make some huge progress for residents in the region. So there are just a couple of things that I just wanted to reference. I hope I haven't triggered Councillor Dad in mentioning road safety, but it feels a really exciting plan, and I'll certainly be making sure that we doing some of that engagement and that consultation as part of my role as well.
Thank you. Might not have the answer to this. In terms of that consultation, we plan on physically going out to communities in their place as well, not just relying on online and phone and that kind of thing. We are physically going to place. Yeah.
Also, consultants.
Yeah.
Just to help set up some of those events as well, and actually to get out to those in those really hard to reach groups. But I've been working with having these conversations in terms of how we can work together to get that sort of penetration into those hard to reach communities. But yeah, absolutely, there will be physical events as well as online events, as well as surveys. There'll be a whole range of different ways in which we try to get that engagement from people.
And there's been spoken before, both authorities in the last couple of years have done transport consultation work, so there'll be learnings from good practice there, I suppose, as well, isn't there? I suppose. Just go there.
Yeah. Do we also take learning from elsewhere in the country on, various aspects of the plan? I think of Wales, for example, that introduced, default 20-mile-an-hour limit, and that went well, didn't it? So, but not just that.
Wasn't it?
Not just that, but other bits as well. I don't know, Manchester for more urban areas and the like. So I presume that we're taking learning from elsewhere
In terms of how to deliver transport. Yeah. So I'm going to butcher this, but there is the mini Swiss model, which has been developed in Clare. Where is it? Help me out.
It's in Derbyshire.
in Derbyshire of all places, and it's basically how they've delivered a rural bus service in an area like Derbyshire, and how we can take learnings, and then things like how the Jersey model has been developed on the island of Jersey, which I hugely recommend as a holiday, where I went every year for about 20 years, a family holiday. But again, it's how there is no roundabouts on Jersey. That's a great fact for you, Gal. But how actually transport can be delivered in an area like that again. But again, how it links into what you've got in terms of your actual travel, in terms of your road network and everything. So it is taking those learnings. But as what's really important, and where devolution really comes into his own, is what Mayor Burnham has done over in Manchester, for example. You wouldn't be able to just roll up that and go stick that into our parts, because you've said earlier on, a lot of our network, you might, having buses running that are not carrying that volume of people, which is where, you've been able to be successful. And then you look at a place like London, where they don't even have timetables, buses and tubes just turn up, don't they? So for us, we are in a very different place. So we have to have, and this is why it's really important that we develop a plan for us, but certainly taking learnings from those other areas. Absolutely. Screen's gone off on that. Hey, do you want to just come back in there?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a really good point, and I think it's reminded of us just to be inwards on this, and in light of work you've done, it's brilliant. It gives us something to start the strategy with. But all of us are involved in numerous networks at opposite level across the whole country. So Transport for the North, for example, Urban Transport Group, Rural Transport Group that's being developed, just the links that we have with our neighbours and beyond. You do talk to each other, and we do discuss what works and what doesn't work, and what's central government and what might be appropriate to roll out, where, how we might want to fund it. We're all, I'm going to use a horrible transport fund, but we are on a journey with this, and we are all trying to find our way. And don't just put our staff away, they will know what I'm talking about. But we are all trying to find our way with this, and the best way to do that is to collaborate and learn from each other. So particularly in the local transport plan, this hasn't just been developed with us, and looking inwards, we have also looked at us to take that learning last year as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rebecca, for all the work on that. So we've proposer for the recommendations on 169, obviously with the change to the 2.3 recommendation. So a proposer for this?
Opposed.
And seconder, and all those in favour? Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, you two, for that. Item 15, Governance Matters Constitution Review and Referrals from Committee. Over to Paul. Hi, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The Governance Matters reports are almost a standing item on the agenda now. These are used to capture any governance-related decisions or issues that arise between meetings that are reserved to the Combined Authority rather than Audit and Governance Committee. We have two separate elements in this report. The first is some referrals from Audit and Governance Committee. So these are reports that were considered at the 15th of April meeting in some detail. They are the Risk Management Annual Report 25-26 and the 26-27 Treasury Management Strategy. These are presented to the Combined Authority for ratification. The full reports and minutes are attached in the background papers section of the report. And then secondly, the substantive item in this agenda, in this report, is the proposed addendum to the current constitution. The members will be mindful that there's a full review of the constitution taking place at the moment, and that is expected to be coming to members in September for consideration. The items included in this addendum are items which were considered either too urgent to wait until September because they need to be implemented immediately at the beginning of the municipal year, or they're urgent matters arising out of the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act, which received royal assent on the 29th of April. So some of these proposals have been developed at pace. The reason that they've been put forward as an addendum is to allow us to do it in a flexible way rather than reviewing the full constitution as it stands at the moment or rushing that wider review. But the principle behind it, and it's set out in the addendum, is that these will be considered as part of the current constitution. Albeit they have been delivered at pace, we have consulted fully with the Audit and Governance Committee prior to presenting to yourselves today. And the Constitution Working Group has managed to meet twice to consider the proposals in detail. The working group did have some comments on it. Some of them were around readability and making sure that the proposals are clear, and they have given some slightly more substantive feedback as well, particularly in terms of the new additions around commissioner roles, to provide some safeguards to reflect current statutory guidance. To summarise, the full details are in the appendix, but the matters that have been put forward are the electronic sealing of documents. So this is for contracts, grant agreements, property deeds for the combined authority or for North Yorkshire Police when we're acting in that capacity. This is just to reflect modern working practices that we work across separate offices, people work remotely. This will allow in some situations for us to affix the combined authority's official seal electronically. The second is to change the principal office address from County Hall to West offices. This doesn't mean that we're moving out of County Hall. It simply means that the principal office for the serving of legal documents will go directly to West offices rather than County Hall. Governance terminology, there's a proposal that these meetings and yourselves as members of the combined authority are referred to in future as cabinet rather than as combined authority members. I think this is just to provide some clarity for officers and members to understand whether we're talking about the combined authority as an organisation or as a decision maker, and to try and give some consistency in the shorthand that can be used when people are referring to boards or other references. The next addition is commissioner roles. This is a new function that was introduced by the Devolution Act. These are either mayoral appointments or combined authority appointments, depending on the functions that they cover. There are some statutory processes in place through the Act for how commissioners may be appointed. And this is to simply put it on a constitutional footing to make sure that the appointment process is fair and transparent. The next is just a very slight change to the portfolio holder role process. The current process in the Constitution is largely based on the model Constitution that we originally approved, which is based on Greater Manchester. I think members would agree that over the last couple of years, as the organisation's matured, we have a different composition to Greater Manchester, and the Mayor just wants a bit more flexibility around how those roles can be allocated to make full use of the expertise that's available. The next one, this is the standing order principles. This is a process for the discipline and dismissal of the combined authority statutory officers. These are standing orders set out in secondary legislation, and these are included, as most councils, well, all councils do, to put it within the Constitution to provide both a sword and a shield for members and the authority in the case that they may need to discipline or dismiss a statutory officer. The next is a delegation to the monitoring officer to make minor constitutional amendments. This is purely for typographical, new legal updates, changes in staffing structures and so on. The Constitution Working Group have proposed some safeguards around this and some guardrails that are included within the addendum to make sure that any changes are strictly typographical and minor. It doesn't make any changes to the governance arrangements of the organisation, and that any changes made under such a process will be reported back. And the final proposal is around international travel, and this is just to amend the approval process for international travel. Only a very minor change, but this is just to effectively give effect to the investment events programme that came from the last meeting, with a whole host of overseas events that are proposed over the next couple of years to give some flexibility in the planning process around that. So those are the proposals very much in summary. There is more detail in the addendum, which I'm sure members have read in more detail. Quite happy to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you very much, Paul. I think it's just a sign change in the growth of, well, we adopted the Constitution a couple of years ago. So really timely, and again, a lot of work from yourself, Paul. So thank you for that. Comments or questions for Paul on this? Okay, propose a proposer for this one, side. Also,
Sorry, just back to the term cabinet for this body, if you like. I mean, I'm not going to get hung up about a word or seek to change it, but I don't think it actually represents what this board is. If you were a member of the public, you would think of cabinet as, you know, portfolio holders, you know, likes. I don't know that we are. I sit on the mayoral combined authority, but I just wonder if cabinet's the right word. I could see the reasoning behind it, but I mean, it's just, you can change it in the future, I suppose, but
I think it's just to have that differentiation.
I get that. I just want,
and then again, both what local authorities have as well. So it's seen as like it's different from that as well, and then from things like the business board, from the open scrutiny and all these sort of things. So just to have that.
Anyway, you know, I've voiced a bit of concern about it. Well, not concern. Wasted 2 minutes of everyone.
Yeah. I'm second, Councillor Dad. A proposer.
Opposed.
Seconder. And all those in favour, move to vote. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul. Again, forward plan, Paul.
Yeah, me again, Mayor. We do draw straws in the governance team for defence reports. I'm going to have the straws inspected after the meeting. Yeah, the forward plan largely as submitted. A new version was published just prior to the papers going out last week. There are a couple of minor changes just to bring to your attention. There's an additional item for the 2nd of July meeting, which is the performance management framework that will be coming from the Director of Resources. And the item local transport capital programme scheduled for the 11th of September will be moving to the October meeting. This is due to a shift in government deadlines that will allow for a slightly extended engagement period with partners. Other than that, no other changes, Mayor.
Thank you, Paul. Any comments or questions for Paul on that? It can be found on page 257. If people are happy just to note that as yeah, thank you very much. Item 17 is urgent business. I've got no urgent business. If not, then we will go to item 12, which is a local net zero accelerator programme. We can exclude the public if we like, or have people want to go into any in-depth detail. Councillor Douglas.
I'd like to propose that we don't speak about the commercially sensitive information so that everybody can remain in the room and have a full public conversation.
I'm happy with that. If it's council, are people happy with that? Yeah, are you happy, Gav? I'm happy to, if that's people that, yeah.
Can I just advise that if any of the statutory officers think that we're straying into that commercially sensitive information, they alert us to it so that we don't step over that line.
Yeah, if people just hurl anything at me or abuse or a drink. Andy, I'll hand over to your capable hands to keep us on track.
Yeah, thank you. So this paper regards the local net zero accelerator programme. So this was part of the devolution deal for York and North Yorkshire. We were given £2 million to be one of 3 pilot areas to look at a regional energy generation model. So it was ourselves, West Midlands and Greater Manchester. The purpose of this is it acknowledges that for us to meet our ambitious carbon negative region target by 2040, we need to scale up the speed of delivery of things like retrofit, of renewable energy sources, of district heating, all the different things will enable us to meet those targets. Those actions have really positive impacts on people's lives as well, and the things that we're trying to achieve as a local authority, whether that be around warmer homes that they live in, cheaper homes to heat for businesses, making them more cost effective, etc. So huge benefits that come with this potential area of work. So to achieve all of those things, we need to attract investment from pension funds, private investment, crowding as much investment as possible, billions of potential investment opportunities in this region. But you need to scale that up and create a step change in delivery and basically have the scale of opportunity which blends across those different things, a risk profile and ways in which we can deliver the mechanisms. So the way to do that is to work across the 3 constituent authorities where we've got a huge asset base, where we can create a bigger portfolio, we can blend the risk profile, as I just said, and prepare ourselves to access government finance as well, which is coming down the line in this area, and ensuring we're maximising the private investment to help us deliver on these ambitions. So as part of that £2 million, there is a requirement. We have to produce a full business case, which will then allow a decision as to whether there is a workable model that we can all agree as 3 parties to go forward with. But at this point, we've reached outline business case, and this is report is seeking outline business case. That is set out in the report. There is a confidential alliance which has got some more of a detail, but I think everything in principle is set out in the report. And hopefully we won't need to stray into just some of the factors around the commercially sensitive strands of this. So we really are just on a journey through to a full business case in the autumn. There's a huge amount of work needs to be done around that to allow the next decision to take place. So this really is just an update report and a gate going through the outline business case gateway.
Thank you, Andy. Again, thank officers back at the combat. A lot of work together as well. As you said, there's a lot of potential, huge potential for us in our lead the way in this. So a fantastic piece of work and a great opportunity. Any questions? Would you like to come in there? Once again.
I just really welcome this and want to echo your hugely technical piece of work, very detailed, really comprehensive, and it's great that we've reached this stage because the fact that we were one of 3 authorities, combined authorities chosen alongside West Midlands and Greater Manchester is also a fantastic opportunity because we can learn from them, which we develop and look at. The brief was to look at the Bristol City Leap project and see whether it applies to other regions, and being able to do that alongside 2 other very different combined authorities, I think has been incredibly useful. So I think it's a fantastic piece of work. I also want to emphasise at this stage it's completely risk and cost free because it's already funded and we're not making any formal decisions at this point. But we've talked a lot this morning about ambition, deliverability and affordability. We've already got strategies as a combined authority and in individual authorities on net zero, or on warm homes, cool homes in the summer, lower energy bills, transport, retrofit, insulation. These are all directly valuable to our residents. But I think we also all recognise that without a complete step change, we're not going to achieve that, because business as usual on this agenda is stop-start. It's bidding against each other for government grants. It's wasting government and officer resource by individually going against each other to try and get a secure funding. You build up staff and then you have to lose them if you don't get a continuing grant. We're just not going to do it as with business as usual. So this is a really valuable opportunity to completely change the outlook and the strategy and move forward to Councillor Dadd's point, deliver it. And it will take a huge amount of investment. But again, being part of this trio of hard-hitting combined authorities means that we are also first in line potentially for pilots, for showing how open we are to investment. And on the investment point, it's worth noting that the CBI recent statistics underlined that the green economy is going 3 times faster than any other part of the economy. It's currently worth about 100 billion a year and growing. It's currently operating at a value of around 1 million jobs and growing. And on Councillor Myers' early point about low wage economy and the prevalence of that in our region, on average, the new jobs and new skills that are growing out of this economy are 11% higher than the average British wage. So all of these are fantastic reasons why I'm really optimistic and hopeful that the next piece of work going to full business case will iron out there are risks that have been identified, and that we can collectively agree this strategy to go forwards to deliver on our ambitions for our people in York and North Yorkshire. And importantly, but also whilst retaining sufficient public sector control so that we know that the wealth and benefits created stay within our communities and with our people. And I think this would be a legacy piece of work, a real step change, and I really welcome it. So thank you.
Made a good choice in the portfolio holder there. Councillor, well done, you passed your
thank you, Mayor.
probation period of 1 hour and a half. Would you like to come in there?
Yeah, just for clarity to the public then, as I understand it, we've been given £2 million to get to this stage. Who funds the next stage? And secondly, there has been no cost for local taxpayer, has there, thus far, and we will be asked for a decision as a local authority, North Yorkshire and indeed York, for any funding coming locally towards this. That's correct, isn't it?
That's absolutely correct, yeah. This fully funded project to allow us to arrive at a decision if, having considered the benefits, the risks, the cost, whether it is something we want to proceed with the next step. The FBC stage, full business case stage, is working out now, what what those risks are, what the opportunities are, what the costs associated with the next phase, and importantly, what's the return on that investment as well. So they'll all be considered in the autumn. So there's no decision at this point. It's just approving the outline business case, which says there's a workable model here, and noting that the full business case will be brought in the future, and that will require decisions across all three parties separately as well, not just combined authority, but both local authorities as to how we take it forward.
No more questions or comments. No, recommendations are on page 109 of the agenda pack. We seek a proposer
Opposed?
and seconder. Councillor Maz, and all those in favour? Thank you very much. And that's the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone. The next scheduled meeting will be on the 2nd of July 2026 at 10:30 at County Hall, Northampton. Thank you very much.